Hello, newsies. Welcome to another episode of Get the Flick Out of Here. Hope your week has gone well. Hope you have good weekend plans. I'm your host, Alex Poloski. And with me, as always, Kate Elizabeth.
Hey, Kate Elizabeth Waldo.
That's right. Kate Waldo Elizabeth. For this week, I made another tragic error, Kate. I recommended something that I remember loving, and then I watched it back with my new eyes that I have as an adult.
Did you have an eye transplant by chance?
No, it's one of those. I listen. You know, like you remember things fondly when you first see them at like 12. You know what I mean? Like and then multiple viewings farther into your life, you still like, oh, it's just, you know. And the thing of it is that if 5-6 years ago this had come on cable and I just switched and watched 5 minutes of it, I would still think it was as I remembered it. But to sit down and watch it for a critique, now that my toxic traits have fully been realized, and I'm not allowed to enjoy anything anymore, I've realized what a mistake that I've made.
Okay, this wasn't just your toxic traits, because I was also. I have some of the same inclinations as you, but it's not an illness in the same way. Right. But I was actually quite bored, and it almost brought me some sense of peace, because Alex, I don't feel bad anymore. I don't feel bad about Amy Garcia and Freddie Prinze Jr. movies. I don't feel bad about making you sit through.
I mean, this is
specials.
This is better than that. This is so much better than Amy Garcia. This is so much better than Amy Garcia and Freddie Prinze Jr.
You've had some questionable calls.
I have.
This was one of them. Here's the thing. And we'll obviously go through it. That's what we're here to do. We're reviewing a movie. Once they realized that they didn't know what they were satirizing, I was kind of checked out. That's kind of where we got lost in this. But guys, if you want to get a chat and to talk about Last Action Hero, the most boring Arnold Schwarzenegger movie I've ever seen. Because we've seen bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. We did a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie right here on this channel. Bored. Some cute jokes. An attempt at something meta, satirical, whatever. Failed.
Yeah, send in your super chats to yell at Kate. Because this is because people because now I have to defend the movie, Kate. This is the problem, is because you don't like it so much. Now I'm going to be forced to defend a thing I don't even like all that much. But I have to, because so much of my life, I went through it living a lie, believing that this, you know how like it's so hard for people to get out of a cult because then their whole life is a lie. That's me in this movie. Now I have to defend it. I can't leave, because then I will have been the idiot. I will have been the wrong one, and that can't be true. So I have to defend this film. I will say this. This movie is actually, it's 7 movies, but it's 2 movies. One of them is utter garbage, and the other is brilliant. The problem is the brilliant one takes up about 20 minutes of the 2 hour and 10 minute.
That is correct.
I want the real movie. I want that movie. And here's what, we might have gotten it. We never know. We might have gotten it. The Last Action Hero has a pedigree to it, like of not Arnold, but like a pedigree of people, like really smart, talented people behind the scenes who worked on this thing. Like John McTiernan had an absolute track record at this point in his career as a director he directed Predator, which
Did
is
he direct
still
Die Hard?
he directed Die Hard. He directed The Hunt for Red October. Like he was a really prestige type of director with this kind of movie. And there were a bunch of different really smart people who did script rewrites on this. The script is credited to a guy named David Arnott, who I don't know, and Shane Black, who wrote Lethal Weapon and all kinds of other really good scripts. Also, they hired all these really great script doctors who were uncredited in the movie but worked on it. One of whom, William Goldman, is an old-timey, amazing, like old-timey, I don't know, old-time, but like for 50 years, he was writing scripts in Hollywood, working on them, rewriting them to make them better. So many scripts of movies that you love, you have no idea. The actual script that they shot was the one that William Goldman got paid $1 million to rewrite, and they didn't use his name in the credits. Like, William Goldman did this forever. Really, really smart guy. He wrote The Princess Bride and a lot of other really great movies. But other people, the guy who wrote Highlander, Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia, was working as one of the most in-demand script doctors in Hollywood at the time. She had a pass on this thing. A lot of really smart people were doing this. And the problem is that they never could agree on what movie they were doing.
It sure feels that way.
Also, John McTiernan has said that they finished shooting the script, finished shooting the movie, and they never edited it. 3 weeks from when they finished shooting to when it ended up in the theaters. That is 1/4 of the time, of the minimum amount of time that you usually give the editors to do a pass and then another pass and then figuring out like what we're doing. John McTiernan says, "Oh, the movie's absolutely 25 minutes too long." But it
is definitely too long, but it's also like that rush with this type of movie and what it's attempting to be is even more egregious because, like you said, it is 2 films. And when you have something that, even though I feel like the script fails satirically, could have been helped by some evening out here and what we were just talking about of the brilliant movie and the bad movie.
Right.
That makes sense. It makes sense why it was bad.
Yeah, he wanted it to be good, but the studio wouldn't let him. The studio, this was one of the most expensive movies ever released. You got to pay Arnold a double fee because he's also the producer of the film. And some of the worst things in the movie came directly from Arnold's brain. So there's that. But he's also one of the most expensive guys in Hollywood. All these amazing action set pieces, special effect shots, all this stuff. So it's very expensive, but also they did things to market the movie, such as a Burger King movie tie-in commercial thing where they had all the time were these Burger King commercials talking about how it's going to be the hit of the summer. But also they paid $500,000 to put an advertisement on the side of the space shuttle, which was supposed to go up in May, but technical difficulties postponed it until July when the movie had already been out for a month and nobody was seeing it. So they paid $500,000 to put Last Action Hero on the side of a space shuttle to like promote the thing, but it never actually launched until after the movie had already tanked at the box office.
I am
like, there were a lot of
that
mistakes.
The space mission did not go as poorly as the box office release, because I didn't do a lot of research around this because I didn't find anything that I cared about.
Ah, good.
But what I did see was that it was a box office flop, which actually surprised me because my guess is the runtime kind of killed this a little bit, because I feel like when this was released, if your kid saw like Arnold Schwarzenegger film and it's for kids, as a parent, even if you heard it was bad, you would be like, well, of course it's bad. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie for kids, right? That only worked in Jingle All the Way. I feel like you could make the argument for. Even that's stretching it, depending on what your definition of worked is.
Yeah.
But it does surprise me that it did as poorly as it did. And understanding that it had a very high ceiling, it was a very expensive film to put out, because I would have thought that parents would have just bit at Schwarzenegger film. My kids want to go, like, this is probably a good use of time or whatever. But if you see 2 hours and 10 minutes on that versus an hour and 30 as a parent, my guess is that might change up your plans a little bit, because that's like Apollo 13 Braveheart length territory. That's not B-level kids movie.
So the reason it was a kids movie is because Arnold insisted upon it. The original script was written on spec by two unknowns. Zach Penn, who later went on to have a very stellar career. He wrote like stuff for Marvel movies, and his sidekick Adam Leff, who did not go on to do much, but they sold that they wrote it on spec. It was their idea, completely whole cloth. They were doing it as a straight up like dark satire on action movies. Like there's stuff in the original script that is really, really bleak, but they're doing it as like a dark satire. And to their surprise, there was a bidding war for this script that they wrote, two unknowns. They sold it for $500,000. One scene from the original script is in the movie. One. So the concept of the movie, you bought the script for $500,000. They still get story by credits on it, but nothing they actually did in there is the same. And everybody had so many cooks in the kitchen, so many different little fingers in the pie to try and make this into your own thing. The producers, not the least of which was Arnold Schwarzenegger, demanding this was a kid-friendly movie. The original script was entitled Extreme Violence. Because at the time, people were going to be, things were rated R for extreme violence, like rated R for sexual content and blah, 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 blah. You could be rated R for extreme violence. And that was the thing they were kind of satirizing, was that.
Well, what type of bleak was it? Like, what was the bleak satire? Like, what was, how was it dark?
The kid in the movie goes on a killing rampage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
so they changed the entire movie.
it's a thing to like prove there are no consequences here. Watch, and he just starts killing everybody that he sees, like as a point of like there are no consequences. But when you start looking at like this is a kid who's like not in high school yet, and he thinks it's cool to like kill everybody with guns because there's no consequences. And once you start like how easy it is to bleed from the world that you see on television where there's no consequences to the real world where maybe you think there might be less consequences because you've been watching too many of these things. And this all happened in the years before school shootings got crazy. But like, can you imagine like that kind of how that would translate in today's anyway?
Or even like, I feel like there was a noticeable like pre 9/11 and post 9/11 shift in how violence in general was, I want to say like neutered, but certainly handled with differently because of what we saw in the real world unfold a little bit. So this was on the earlier curve of that and kind of comes into play.
There's no there's very little blood in the movie. Arnold kills a bunch of people, but the only
not
real
extreme
blood
violence.
not extreme violence. Not the way that they do it. They do it in a funny way. But anyway, Arnold was writing off the success of the movie Twins, which was a straight up comedy with him and Danny DeVito and their twins. And then Kindergarten Cop, which was the last big movie he did before this one, I think, where he plays a cop who goes undercover in a kindergarten classroom and all the kids, blah, 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 blah. It was it's a huge hit. So he had become kind of almost like a family action guy. And so he insisted on that striking the same tone because those movies had been hits. But they were rewriting the script on set, trying to figure out what's the tone that we want to set with this thing. The director wants something, Arnold wants something different, all this stuff. So the reason it's so uneven is because so many different people were trying to make so many different movies at the same time. And that happens actually a lot. But then in the final edit, you go through and you go, okay, actually, let's all agree this is what we're going to tell. We're going to do this story instead of those. We're going to do this one. We also need about 4 or 5 days of reshoots to make sure that those scenes that are a little off get reshot in the right tone. All of that usually happens. But when the production company says, this is the date, you are releasing it on this date, June 18th, there will be no competition on either side of this thing. Because they thought Jurassic Park was going to be a flop. The production company that made this thought Jurassic Park, because honestly, the last 2 movies that Spielberg had made did not do well at the box office. So Jurassic, what kid wants to go watch dinosaurs come to life in vivid, like amazing special effects on the screen? They won't go to see that movie 2 weeks in a row. So that movie came out on June 11th. This movie came out on June 18th. Didn't ever even open number 1 at the box office because Jurassic Park was still number 1, and it didn't remain number 2 at the box office the second week it was there. Word of mouth tanked this thing. People who did go to see it because they thought it was going to be something like, I feel like there's either you go thinking it's going to be all family comedy, or you go thinking it's going to be all action. You don't go thinking it's going to be a weird satire of both things and how they can't exist in the same world. So nobody liked it. If you went thinking it was A, it wasn't. If you went thinking it was B, it wasn't.
It was also
nobody
not
likes
that.
it.
Right.
Nobody went to see it. So there you go. That's the main problem.
I did not realize it was weeks, back-to-back weeks with Jurassic Park. That makes so much sense. And to their defense, it's kind of like when people refuse to do action figures for Star Wars. I'm like, well, yeah, if I heard about that, if someone told me about this universe and what was happening, I'd be like, that feels risky to make action figures around. Jurassic Park, if you hear the concept of it, that feels like a weird concept. But if you saw a single trailer, the trailers alone for Jurassic Park were like, they'd make you in today's time want to go see the movie. So
okay, so remember this, that the same idiots who won't pay the writers the money now and think, oh, we'll just have ChatGPT, I'll write all the movies. Those same idiots were also idiots back then, or if not, the people now, that was their boss then who told them everything they know about. How the world
works, kids. Yep.
So producers are idiots. Never trust a producer. They always suck at everything. So that's the main thing, is the producers made this movie tank. Like in every way, this could have been a much better movie than it was. I don't know if it would be a good movie, but it could have been a much better movie than it turned out to be. Except for the producers decided, no, I'm sorry, you have 3 weeks to do an edit of this. And that's it really did.
Almost why it was so boring and frustrating was it was just like, once you got a little bit into it, you were like, oh, you're just not going to lean into any of the stuff that could have made it good. There are some really good, there are some really good jokes in it. There are really good moments, but like you could tell pretty early into this that like there wasn't going to be any saving this. Like,
yeah,
that at no point was this going to turn in the direction that you kind of needed it.
Right.
It was real long.
So the first thing I want to talk about in the viewing of it is the soundtrack still kicks ass.
Yes.
It was one of the best. Every movie like this in the 90s had to have like a star-studded soundtrack. This one went platinum. Like, even though the movie sucked, people still bought the soundtrack. So the first one is What the Hell Have I from Alice in Chains, which is still one of their best songs they ever did. And it only ever appeared on this soundtrack. Being a child of the 90s, like begged my dad for a CD burner, so that I would like take all of my favorites, like soundtracks and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, this song is by this artist, so I'm going to lift that from this soundtrack and like burn it onto a CD that has all of their best stuff and everything. And I have most of the stuff I listened into the car in high school was all burned CDs.
You are talking to the first girl in her 5th grade class to have a CD burner. I was not a popular kid. I was popular for a very small time period when people realized that I could get my colored verbatim CDs and put whatever songs I wanted and illegally downloaded probably from Napster or LimeWire onto those. CD burner, game changer. It's like if you had playlists on Spotify, but you didn't have Spotify, you could put them on CDs. They were called.
This is not somehow the most out of date music discussion that will happen during this review. So it's What Hell I is playing. There's all these cop cars. There must be, I don't know, 150 cops all there. And I'm thinking, you think you brought enough guys? Like it's just a lot of people.
He had a few people with him.
Right. So this is a weird thing. The weird thing the movie does. They cast Frank McRae as Captain Decker. Frank McRae is a former NFL football player who got a big break in movies. The most famous role he played was as the police captain in 48 Hours. A big black guy, yelled all the time. And this movie is parodying that character with the same actor who played that character, which might be interesting and avant-garde, except they did the exact same thing with the exact same character actor lampooning the same character 4 months earlier with the movie Loaded Weapon 1, where Frank McRae played a blowhard yelling black police captain. But that movie was a straight up parody. It was a parody of Lethal Weapon. This movie is also a satire of it, which is also an homage to it. None of the right tones were struck, but this guy it's so weird to have to be. You really got to make it a real inside joke if you hire Frank McRae to play the stock character that he created from a movie that came out, a much better movie that came out 12 years earlier. It's so odd that they did that.
A weird call for sure.
Especially because he played the same character even better in Loaded Weapon 1, which that was a movie nobody remembers. So anyway, we're gonna set a perimeter, nobody in or out. But the guy who goes in is a guy who's walking across the tops of police cars, wearing stonewashed jeans and a pair of rattlesnake boots. Pan up, he's wearing a red shirt and a leather jacket, brown leather jacket. The joke later is that this is literally the only outfit he owns. He owns multiple outfits of it, but it's his costume. It's a stock costume. And that's not a joke that actually really ever lands. It's just a weird thing that they do. That's not a thing that's not a thing that happens in the movies that you're trying to make fun of or parody or do an homage to. Nobody has like a stock outfit that they wear, maybe like one jacket or one pair of boots. They're the same, like head to toe. It's the same thing he wears in every scene and also in every movie. It's just a weird thing to do. The movie doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't know if it's in or out of being a movie even. Like that. That's kind of the bummer of it. But yeah, he has the Doug Funny wardrobe where it's the same outfit over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And it works for like half-hour animated stuff. Because kids need to be able to immediately identify when they watch something that is this person, but we don't need that because, we have fully formed brains.
Correct.
No. Hey, RIP. Yeah, not us particularly, but, adults. Hey, RIP Tina Turner, who was in this in a very smart little cameo. This turned out to be her last film role. She didn't do anything after this.
Really?
Yeah. But she plays the mayor of Los Angeles, and she's trying to talk Jack Slater, Arnold Schwarzenegger, from going into the building. Hey, this is the lieutenant governor. And he hits him. He punches him in the face, says, when the governor gets here, call me. There's a guy, we can infer this on the roof. Damn you, Ripper, let the children go, says Frank McRae. So we don't, this is whatever. He goes up like to the front of the building. The captain has radioed a SWAT guy at the front. Whatever you do, don't let him in the building. And he comes up to him and says, hey, you want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres. And he kicks him in the balls, which is like, in no way is that a joke. Like, you want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres. Oh, get it? Acres, things that ache, 2 of them, i.e. your balls, but also a play on words like acres.
Like a plot of land.
Like a plot of land. That's not a joke. That's just dumb. Whoever, like, honestly, that's a really bad joke. So he kicks him in the balls, and then he crushes he's already thrown his badge away. He doesn't care about the badge. He crushes the walkie-talkie. He goes up to the roof, and he's there, and we see the villain, who is played by Tom Noonan, who played the villain in the first Hannibal Lecter movie, not with Anthony Hopkins, the one that came out 5 years prior to that, called Manhunter. He was the villain in that. And he's got fake teeth, burn scars. He's wearing chainmail and a rain slicker. He's got a giant axe. Schwarzenegger's like, yeah, how's he hurt you, Andrew? No, Dad, I'm fine. So this is where we find out that he's been going up to the top to the roof to like rescue his own child. Like there's a bunch of other kids up there, but it's his own child, this 8-year-old boy. So this is all, as dumb as it all is, this all is pretty well in line with 80s, terrible 80s action movies.
Extremely well shot. Like
extremely well shot. All the characters are very stock, but they all feel like these are real people that exist in an action movie world. And then he says, "Okay, Jack, lose the cannon." So he drops his gun. Any other guns? Yeah, that's all of them. No, I don't think so. We all. What else? So then he drops like 17 guns, which is your first tip. Oh, this is a parody. But like it doesn't strike the tone of that. Like if it were like, okay, the movie's serious for the first 2.5 minutes, now it's a parody for everything after that. No, there's just this one parody joke in this scene that doesn't belong in it.
And it doesn't fit. Like I kept thinking of there's a scene in The Office where Dwight is told to get rid of his weapons because he shot someone.
Yes.
And you have to, I feel like the pacing of how you do something like this is you need either like a pregnant pause and then the 17 guns fall out of nowhere, mm-hmm. or you need it like how that scene is done where it's just like, and here, mm-hmm. and here. Mm-hmm. And this just doesn't, to your point, the tonality is off. And then we don't really get parody kind of the rest of the movie on this, unfortunately.
No, like, there is a bunch of parody, but it's not done as a parody. It's done as like, an inside joke, which is not the same thing as a parody. Anyway, he throws a live grenade at the feet of the Ripper and his son, and the Ripper, thank God, is not stupid. It's like, there's no way that's a live grenade because you're not going to sacrifice your own kid to get to me. It's very flattering, but it's not happening. Pick up the grenade, Andrew. So the kid picks it up, and then the kid hits a little button on it, which a little 2-inch blade comes out the bottom of the grenade, and he stabs the Ripper in the leg. And then Jack Slater dives for the gun, and the Ripper throws the axe, which narrowly misses him. And as he rises to shoot the Ripper, the movie goes out of focus. We realize now we're actually watching a movie within the movie, and here we meet Danny Madigan. Unfortunate owner of the worst haircut in the history of film.
It's not great.
It's a really bad, it's a distractingly bad haircut. and also a terrible child actor. Kind of ruins the whole thing because they make the whole movie. The movie has to rely on him to be great, and he's not that bad, but he's like a fourth or fifth most important character in the movie tops, and he is the whole movie. The whole movie revolves around him, and they also really don't know what tone they're striking with him. That like there are 4 different scripts that I was able to see parts of online. They all have his peg his age as something different, from 9 to 13, and those are honestly that's a crazy age range for pre and post pubescent boys. Like at 9, he doesn't give a shit about girls. Honestly, he really doesn't.
No, they're
at 13,
gross.
that's all he can think about. Like just for example of how a boy transitions from 9 to 13. So I mean,
you're talking 4th to 7th grade,
right?
Yeah, that's
very different. And also like a 9-year-old walking around Manhattan, especially the Manhattan they created for this movie, people would go like, what? 13, people might be okay. He's wanting, that's okay. It's a weird thing. And because this movie shoots pages from all of these different scripts, you might have a page from the script where he's 9, and then the next scene, it's the scene from the script where he's 13, and you never know how that all. And that's a big problem for this movie. But he's there watching this thing. He yells, "Focus!" He goes up. Nobody can help him. There's nobody else in the theater. The guy who sells popcorn's asleep. So he goes up to the projection booth where we meet Robert Prosky, who's Nick, and Robert Prosky is the nicest man in the world. We saw him in Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Yes, we did.
But in the original script, the spec script sold by those 2 first timers, he's the devil. He's the devil. Which is why he's called Nick, because that's the old Nick was the old yeah. So, but that's not, it couldn't be less the devil in this movie. Hey, I'm screening the print. I got to check the print for the new Jack Slater movie that's coming out. And you want to come by at midnight tonight to, 9 or 13-year-old boy, would you like to sneak out of your mom's house to watch this movie at midnight with me? I'm definitely not a pedophile. Don't worry about it.
No, don't.
But
I have a question, an actor question.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in the process were you cast? Because if you get offered a script, it has to play the devil, and then you end up with this. Like, did they have a fundamental direction that you were going before, or like?
I feel like by the time they were casting this, they had abandoned.
They had kind of gutted the concept, at least. Okay.
The original concept was kind of done. But you could be cast as something and they could change the direction they're going, and they may recast because of it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Ogre says Ogre here says these are fun to watch, so a bit support to help keep going. A couple movies I would like to see you do: Adventures in Babysitting, the original, never saw the remake, didn't know there was a remake, that's from me, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Adventure Babysitting I haven't seen in a very long time. I don't think I ever saw Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. That
sounds like something I couldn't watch.
No, it's definitely not. It is not a horror movie at all. I know that part. So always says, hey, do you know there's going to be a new Jack Slater movie? He's watching Jack Slater 3, a movie that came out 3 years ago in an old rundown theater in the Times Square before Giuliani was mayor. So they didn't round up all the homeless and the hookers and kick them out.
This is next to a peep show for sure.
Yeah, and definitely, I think that location is now an M&M store. So it's definitely not the same time. Don't go looking for this landmark when you go to New York next week. He says, oh yeah, are you kidding me? They killed his second cousin. Big mistake. Jack Slater 4. And so the what do you call it? The catchphrase of Jack Slater. Big mistake. Big mistake. It's a real big mistake. It's a real big mistake to have us review a movie where the catchphrase is "big mistake" because I get to use this a lot. So he goes to school. He walks to school, and oh, on the way out, he sees the picture of introducing Meredith Caprice in Jack Slater 4 as Whitney. This is one of those weird things of like, when we get to near the end of the movie, you'll find that there's a bunch of like real actors playing themselves who are in the Jack Slater movie. Not the least of which is Arnold, but other things as well. I don't understand why Bridget Wilson is playing Meredith Caprice, who is playing Whitney Slater. Why not just say Bridget Wilson is like, if Bridget Wilson is hot, he could have the hots for Bridget Wilson. Why are we doing the weird like middle woman where Bridget Wilson plays Meredith Caprice, who plays Whitney Slater?
Yeah, that's weird.
Again, the movie doesn't know what the hell it's doing. He goes to school. He's 4 hours late to school. And we get his teacher, who again is either teaching 4th grade or 7th grade, about is treachery, conspiracy, sex, sword fights, madness, ghosts, and in the end, everybody dies. Hamlet is Shakespeare's great action movie.
I hope it's 4th grade and they're talking to them about Hamlet.
Me too. Or even 5th or 6th. But this guy does not strike me as like honors English type of kid. So like, anyway,
Hamlet's probably like high school, realistically, right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they actually settled on 12. You know what I mean? Like ish, like not quite, but because of so many of the other things. But he's not high school because the actor who played
Hamlet
him,
probably should be.
I get you. The actor who played him was 11 when they made the movie. So yeah, it's weird. Anyway, so he says, let me show you this scene from the Laurence Olivier version of Hamlet on a film strip in my class. And funny thing is, they got Joan Plowright to play the teacher who was married to Laurence Olivier, which is a fun little behind the scenes thing. Also, probably most famous for kids of our age, she played Mrs. Wilson in the Dennis the Menace movie. But also had an Oscar nomination under her belt when she did this one scene. But anyway, so this is the one scene in the entire movie that came from the original script, is him watching Hamlet, the Laurence Olivier Hamlet, and daydreaming about what if Arnold was Hamlet. And it's honestly one of the most inspired things in the movie is like the way that it's all in black and white, but except for like certain things are in color. The Claudius, you killed my father. Big mistake. And he throws him through a stained glass window, and as he crashes through it, the stained glass goes from gray to all color. When he lights the cigar, the flame is all color. He starts shooting all these guards with Uzis, and the guy says, something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and Hamlet is taking out the trash. And then we get Polonius that stay thy hand, fair prince. Who said I'm fair? And he shoots him. To be or not to be, and the whole thing explodes. And it's honestly,
clever.
It's a clever little gag. It feels like Arnold is having fun doing it. It's one of the most clever things in the movie. And it was like in the script that they said, nah, get this thing the hell out of here. Let's have 12 other people write this and never agree on what movie they're doing. So this is where we meet his Danny Madigan's mom, who is played by Mercedes Ruehl, the mom from Big. This is where we get a little neat and tidy exposition delivery It's like, what are you doing cutting school? I'm trying to make this work for us. You think I wanted this? You think I said to myself, hey, let me try out being a widow before I'm 40. Let's see how that would be. You know, he realized, okay, your exposition through sarcasm, Mom, has made me feel really bad and sad. So I'm very sorry. And so she says, okay, I got to go to work. But you lock the lock on this door as soon as I leave, because there's we live in the most crime and filth-ridden apartment in all of Manhattan. Feels like you could have found a cheaper place to live.
On the outskirts, perhaps.
Not in Manhattan. I'm just saying.
Right, yeah.
Try Queens.
Queens?
Perhaps.
Hoboken, New Jersey. There's plenty
maybe.
Yeah.
He waits, he does his homework. He's supposed to go to the theater by midnight. So it's like 11:25 and he decides, I'm gonna go. He's jumped by a junkie as soon as he sets foot out in the hallway. So I guess all those locks were a good thing. But the junkie comes in and like, I'm gonna stab you with a switchblade knife. Where's all the stuff? And he's like, Tate, chain your. I'll give you this knife. Take your best shot, kid, because that's what junkies usually do. They like to prove a point about how they're more of a man than a 9-year-old. But of course,
they usually wait in the hallway to jump a child to prove a point to them.
Right. But this is the thing: is that he does that. This is a thing that happens later, where we're not sure if young Danny Madigan is enough of a man to kill somebody.
Yes.
And the movie seems to imply that he should be at this age.
Yeah, of course.
He should probably kill somebody. What are you waiting for, kid? Yeah, come on. Pop your cherry. Let's go.
You're gonna be a teenager at 13, and you're 12 now or 11 now.
Right.
You got to start now.
Right. So
man up.
He doesn't.
Back when switchblades were men.
Back when junkie muggers were men. He doesn't kill the junkie, and the junkie says, okay, I won't kill you either. Just chain yourself to this pipe with with the handcuffs. And then he goes to the house like, there's no jewelry, no cash, no VCR, a shit TV that'll get me $20. And then he throws the key in the toilet and says, go fishing. And then cut to the kid has fished out the handcuff. I don't think his arms were long enough to get to that toilet from where he was.
He had to have go gadget arms for sure.
Yeah, he got the key. He was able. Anyway, the next thing we see was him in the police station with the least helpful policeman ever. It's like, anyway, so yeah, if we catch the guy, we'll call you. We talked to your mom. She says to go right home and go to bed. Also, not helpful. Mom. Who can't like, you know, walk? You just got mugged. Walk home from the police station to our house to our apartment has been ransacked,
broken into. Yep.
Stay there and wait for me. Also not helpful. The mom's boss who won't let her off her shift as a waitress at midnight to go and take care of her kid who got mugged in his own apartment.
Correct.
Basically, the movie is saying the real world sucks. The real world is terrible.
You're on your own, kid.
Yeah, you're on your own, kid. So he doesn't go home. He goes to the Pandora Theater. It's the first time we ever noticed it's called the Pandora Theater. Whoa, open Pandora's box. It's a metaphor. So then he meets up with Nick, and Nick gives him the most ridiculous fucking monologue about how my dad was a bookkeeper here. He gave me my first job, like cleaning up or whatever. This place was the vaudeville theater then. A lot of exposition. I always wanted to be a magician. Anyway, one time Harry Houdini played here, and my dad brought me backstage to meet him. He was like a god to me. Anyway, he gave me this ticket. It's a magic ticket, I just met you, and you are not connected to me in any way, child, except for you are the son of the bookkeeper of this theater I am playing on a no doubt 200 stop tour for Harry Houdini. But this is the magic ticket I'm going to get you. It was given to me by the greatest magician in India. It was given to him by the greatest magician in Tibet. And now I'm going to give it to you. Again, child I just met and have no connection to. By the way, Harry Houdini died in 1926. Robert Prosky, the actor playing Nick, was born in 1930. I don't know how old the character of Nick is, but he would have had to have been in his 90s for this to work out properly. So ask me if I like this monologue, Kate. It makes no fucking sense. Honestly, the writers of the original script.
No, we're not going to gloss over that.
No, I'm telling you, the writers of the original script hated this part of the movie. The magic ticket.
Of course they did.
They hated it. They were like, what a magic ticket? What the hell?
What in the
how does that make
in the chocolate factory
any sense?
It doesn't, and it's as far as abandoning the original concept too. I feel like the original concept was supposed to be so. Well, this is the most egregious maybe use of that, right? Like
the magic that got him into the movie in the original script was that the ticket taker was the devil who just like magicked him into the script, into the movie, which is a lot better, I guess, than a magic ticket.
A perversion of the original concept. It was stark. It was the no connection part was really what got me here. What a random occurrence of events.
So I was always too scared to use the ticket. What if it worked? Or what if it didn't work? Anyway, here you use it on this random thing. He also tears the ticket in half. Like this is you could sell, just wait a few years if you survive that long because you're in your 90s. Wait a few years until eBay becomes a thing and sell a ticket given to you by Harry Houdini sometime in the early 20s. Like, what are you doing tearing it in half? This is ridiculous. But he tears it in half because you need the other half of the ticket. So the end of the movie, the terrible, horrible end of the movie works. But he tears the ticket in half. Please retain your stub, sir. And then they show him the beginning of the movie. The kid is in there by himself. They start watching the movie. Angry Again by Megadeth is the beginning of Jack Slater 4. Angry Again, also the unofficial theme of Sour Graps. This is where we see two old pros in the movie within a movie, Anthony Quinn and Art Carney doing a scene on the back terrace of the most beautiful house in the history of the world, right on this cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And he's like, hey, you think I do not know? You are Jack Slater's favorite second cousin. Again, every time you do the favorite second cousin thing, I'm sure I have second cousins. I've never really met any of them. But they're elsewhere all over the planet at this point. I don't have a favorite. My wife has second cousins, but I don't know if the way that they just call them a cousin. When you call the second cousin, it's a weird thing that is a device to make it seem like you're clever. It's just weird. He says you tell each other everything. Does he know, says Anthony Quinn to Art Carney, that my mob is joining forces with Torelli's mob to take over the entire drug trade of Southern California? And Art Carney is like, no, that specific thing never came up in conversation. Anyway, you're gonna have to listen. I don't know. You're gonna have to shoot me. And then a bullet hits the tree right next to Art Carney, and we travel and we follow where the bullet was. It was in the gun of this very long-barreled gun held by a man sitting over on the thing. And he looks over, and he's got a glass eye with a little target on a red bullseye on his thing. Hey, this man over here, he's a killer. His name is Benedict. Sometimes he likes to bake. while he's killing people, which is not a thing. It's like it's to set up a really bad joke, but it has no bearing on the rest. One thing of like, hey, this guy's a hired hitman who's also a gourmand baker. Like he bakes the most beautiful tarts you've ever seen in his life. But that doesn't actually happen in the movie. I'm willing to bet that's a scene from a different script they didn't shoot. Anyway, he says, what I'm trying to say is he could kill you as easy as cake. And then 40 feet away, we hear easy as pie, you Sicilian schmuck. So he's got a problem with malapropisms. Old Tony Vivaldi, played by Anthony Quinn. And so he comes over and he says to Benedict, listen, drop him off at his place. He actually bought it. He actually bought that I'm going to start working with the Torelli mob. It's perfect. This movie also, some of the scripts seem to think that it is Tony Vivaldi's idea to murder Jack Slater. Other scripts seem to think it's trying to trick Jack Slater into thinking that he's working with the Torelli mob when he really isn't. And a third set of scripts, by the way, they shot pages from all these scripts, seems to think that he's actually trying to recruit Jack Slater to become a dirty cop and go on the payroll for him. But you can't be doing all of these things in the same story. So none of it makes sense, you know? And then it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just not very good.
Yeah. So Jack Slater arrives at his second cousin Frank's house. And there's a bunch of cops who were there. There's a tip that it might be a crack house. The only drugs you're going to find in there are aspirin. So he goes in there, and it's Art Carney, bound and gagged. His last movie, also, by the way. And he's like, Jack, listen, it's very important. The Vivaldi mob is joining forces with the Torelli mob. I just had to wait long enough to be alive when I next saw you, so I could give you that information, which doesn't actually have any value at all. And now I'm going to die. And then he does. And then there's a little cards stapled to his chest, clipped to his chest. And he opens them up, and it says Slater. And he starts shuffling them. It says 5, puts another one, 4, 3, 2. So they set up a bomb to go off to blow up the cousin Frank house and also Slater. So wait, are you trying to? You gave Art Carney fake information to mislead Jack Slater while also trying to assassinate Jack Slater. If he's dead, what is the fake information for? And if he's got the information, once you give him the fake information, that's to get him to do something that he can't do if he's dead. Like,
it was a ruse for the sake of a ruse.
There is a giant explosion, and the kid who knows all the tropes says after the explosion, he's fine, minor injury. Both cops dead, and that actually happens. And the kid is very smug, self-satisfied. And then there is a car chase because it wasn't enough to blow up the house with Jack Slater in it. You got to send a pickup truck, a vintage pickup truck with a bunch of goons in it carrying Uzis to chase Jack Slater. Again, this is perfectly fine thing that would happen in any 80s action movie. This car chase with a bunch of goons and throwing dynamite at him.
The operative word being this, because soon enough,
right.
A lot of things that would never happen in an action movie start happening, and that's where it lost me. But this was fun.
Best song on the soundtrack, Big Gun by AC/DC, playing through this whole thing. Fun fact, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger who went to AC/DC himself and requested a song specifically written for this soundtrack, and they said, great. Hey, we've seen photos. That's a really big gun that you're carrying in the course of the movie. And Arnold says, well, yes, it actually is a 44 Ruger, the largest handgun ever conceived. And they said, great, we're going to write a song called Big Gun. And they did. And it's a good song. It's a bop. During the whole car chase, Big Gun is playing. And it's a 1969 Pontiac Bonneville convertible. It's beige for some reason. You would think it would be red. It's beige. So they're throwing dynamite. They're throwing dynamite at him as he's running away. And he turns around and shoots the dynamite out of the sky. It doesn't explode, because physics don't have any bearing here, but it shoots it out of the screen into the theater, and Danny sees it rolling. He drops his popcorn on it, and he runs toward the screen, away from the thing. There's an explosion, which blows him forcefully into the movie. So, when they go back into that exact same theater at the end of the movie, there is no explosion damage. So I don't know if the fake dynamite that traveled into the real world doesn't explode, or if they forgot. It's a bad
Maybe they
movie.
just did a lot of remodeling in a very short amount of time.
It could be.
They restored it to its former glory.
So Danny lines up at the back of Arnold's car. He's like, "Who are you? How did you get here?" And it's like, "Just keep your head down, kid." And he's shooting and shooting. And he's shooting without driving. He's like turned around fully, shooting with both hands. You're not even using your hands to drive. You think it's easy? You got to practice a long time. And then he shoots one guy who like flies through the air and lands, crashes through and into an ice cream truck. The truck explodes because I guess the guy had a bomb strapped to him. I don't know. And then an ice cream cone flies through the air and impales itself in the back of some guy's head, because ice cream cones can do that, don't you know?
Of course. That's how ice cream works.
And then he goes, "Ice that guy," to cone the phrase, which is not as bad as the ice puns that we got in Batman and Robin, which happened only 4 years after this.
You know who did that idea extremely well, and this kind of fails here? When forgetting Sarah Marshall, like when Sarah Marshall was in the terrible Law and Order ripoff shows that she was in, they did those so well. These ones I was just like, not good.
Right.
Not good. And I'm a pun enthusiast.
The kid goes, "Oh my God, the action, the car chase, the bad puns. I'm in the movie. I don't know how this happened, but I'm in the movie." Then Arnold reaches down onto the side, the bench seat next to him, and without really looking, puts a mini disc in the Sony mini disc player, which is connected to his car stereo. And like there would be a window of about, I'm going to say conservatively, 30 months where this would have been a thing, where they were trying to get over the idea of mini disc players in cars. And it is very emblematic of that ridiculous time period in technology. The college that I went to for undergrad in this time period, somebody sold them on the idea this is the future of audio technology.
Sure.
So they overhauled their entire sound design system into being mini disc stuff. So I had to, like, when I was doing sound design projects, I had to do everything on mini disc, which, let me tell you, is not fun. And I can only imagine by the time that like iPods became a thing, like 4 or 5 years later, how they had to like completely get rid of all that shit that they bought in 1993 and then put everything else back in.
Good rule of thumb. If there's a technology and things about it are getting smaller, wait a minute, because it might just turn into streaming.
Right. That's true. That's very true. So they get away from the guys. There's a van with a giant machine gun inside it. And that van, they go into the LA River and then jump themselves out of it. But then the van jumps itself out of it and goes flying through the air. And it looks the most fake that the special effects have ever looked. And then explodes. And the reason is because I only had 3 weeks in post to do a special effects shot, which is why all the special effects in this look so bad. So it's like, "I'm sorry, I threw up in your car, sir. I thought I was going to die." "Oh, no, you're going to live to enjoy all the fruits that life has to offer. Acne, shaving, premature ejaculation, and your first divorce. I don't know why you're talking to this kid you just met, who, for all you know, is 9, about premature ejaculation. Why is this a thing in the script?
That one was weird. Weird. I liked the idea. And then you throw that in there, that's weird. But BlueChew.com code football.
They end up stuck at the end of this alleyway. And he goes and he says to the kid, again, he just met, does this suck weenie or what? And so they play chicken with the other vehicle involved in the car chase. And that guy, because they play chicken, you know, in every Slater movie, obviously swerves because the bad guys never win. And one guy the car explodes into flames while it's flying through the air for no reason, and then crashes through the side of a building into what I can only describe as a scantily clad girl convention. Like, I don't know what this thing is supposed to be. Is it a place of business? Like, is it a party somebody's throwing? Why are all these women around half nude? Oh, because it's a movie and therefore anything can happen. You know? Yeah,
I like the scantily clad girl convention. Because they have like the Port Awards or whatever. Just scantily clad is great though.
Right. Yeah. So then they show up at the police station, and as they're walking, they get a valet at the police station because it's a movie, and they walk up, and as they're walking in, it's Sharon Stone from Basic Instinct and the T-1000 from Terminator 2, and Danny immediately recognizes these people as being from other movies, which again is not the movie that you're telling. He is in a specific movie that Sharon Stone and Robert Patrick are not in, nor would they be playing the characters from those movies in this movie. This now is starting to verge onto inside jokes, which is not quite parody, but it's also not the movie you've been telling.
Correct.
So there's a very strong difference here. So also, hey, Slater, it's your ex-wife on too. Oh, she's always calling me. And then he puts a cassette player and he puts the phone to it. So it's just him going, yeah, that's right. Of course. Well, you're always right. Yes. Yeah, sure. All right. And so that's a clever joke about, you know, not wanting to talk to your ex-wife. Then we get F. Murray Abraham, who shows up and says, hey, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, you old son of a gun. Hello. And they have because he's a guy who used to be a cop, but now he works for the CIA, and he's stationed in Washington. He's an old buddy of Slater. This is all a lot of exposition in like 3 sentences. And so then he goes off, and he says, and then Danny says to Arnold, "Hey, watch out! He killed Mozart." He what? Like, is that supposed to be some in a movie? Amadeus, it won 8 Oscars. Like, I don't know why this kid's watching Amadeus. If the kid is into action movies, why would he have watched Amadeus? But also, I don't know if you know this, but F. Murray Abraham is playing an actor called Murray Josephson, who is playing John Practice. So Practice didn't kill Amadeus. F. Murray Abraham did, but it's never said that it is F. This movie has no fucking idea what it is. I'm so angry.
No, it's just so chaotic. It's so chaotic.
I'm so angry at myself for spending so much of my life liking it. So there's a big desk in the middle of the giant room with this huge atrium where they're just partnering up people for the day, because that's how it works, I guess. Sure. We have a big fat guy named Euler and a hot chick named Waterman. I wonder if they'll pair well together. Oil and water. Yuck. And like, hey, the rabbi, you're partnered up with Krauss, who's the most Aryan dude you've ever seen. But they're friends. Also, there's a cop who's called the rabbi. Then there's like, oh, hey, whatever your name is, you're partnered up with the animated cat. And it's an animated cat.
Is where I was like, this isn't an action movie. Like, you're not satirizing an action movie anymore.
No.
There's no Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with an animated cat buddy. Like, that's when I was just like,
The entire idea of the animated cat came from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Getting Danny DeVito to voice the animated cat came from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That doesn't surprise me.
There's no animated cat in any script. It's just Arnold saying, we should make this more appealing to children. Let's put an animated cat in here. And credit to the script writers on set who were like, how do we make this work? Oh, that'll be it. The kid will recognize this has to be a movie if there's an animated cat in it, because the real world doesn't have animated characters walking around.
Yeah.
And then the other cops are going, yeah, of course, it's Detective Whiskers. He's one of the best men on the force. Like, them no-selling it is a joke in of itself, but it is a joke from an entirely different movie. And that's the problem. The joke itself is solid. It just belongs in an entirely different film.
I was just layer by layer was getting checked out on this, and then the animated cat thing annoyed me. Because you're right. Like, this is a movie that has some great gags that fall apart entirely in the framework.
Right. There's a scene where they don't know why Danny Madigan knows everything, but they accept that he does. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you what's going to have. This is your new partner, Jack Slater. And the kid, like he knows all the tropes. We're perfect buddy cop material, but buddy movie material. I'll teach you to be vulnerable, and you'll teach me to be brave, which is honestly how these things work. In better movies that don't involve a 9-year-old. But then he says, obviously this is a movie. If this was real life, they'd assign me to a social worker or something. Some kid who's in LA who wound up in the back of a cop's car who says he's from New York, but they can't find out. Like they say there's no such address in New York. They'd assign me to a social worker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so you can't. Oh, hey, I know how I can prove to you it's actually a movie. Shoot me in the face. You can't do it because guys like you don't kill kids in movies. I want there to be an alternate cut of this movie that is about 48 minutes long, where Jack Slater pulls out a gun and pulls the trigger. And that's it. Done. So I'll have 10 minutes to prove to me we're in a movie. So where do they go, Kate? Don't say Blockbuster. Don't say Blockbuster Video, because they don't go to Blockbuster Video. I mean, they do, but they go to Blockbuster Video. The sign on the door when they walk in says Acme Video. All of the signage within the place says Blockbuster Video, because they couldn't take down the Blockbuster logos. That, like, it would one thing if there was a Blockbuster logo, but they had just put over some tape over it that was the right color to not say Blockbuster Video, after you prominently displayed on the door walking in Acme Video. But they couldn't even bother to do that.
Because they had 3 weeks in post.
That wouldn't have been in post. That would have been during the shoot. You would have had have like a fleet of continuity people who could we take down that sign because this isn't Blockbuster Video. Whatever.
I don't think I realized the Acme thing on the way in. I just assumed, what a nice little Blockbuster Video.
Mm-hmm. They went to the trouble of putting a sign on the door when they walk in that says Acme Video. Anyway. So where are the Schwarzenegger films? Foreign films are in the back, because Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't exist in this movie, in this universe. Jack Slater does, but Sylvester Stallone exists in this universe, and so do all the movies that Arnold made, except for they were all made by Sylvester Stallone. There's a big thing of Sylvester Stallone in Terminator 2. The funny part is Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger hated each other in real life, were professional and real rivals.
Oh,
There's a story, the worst movie that Sylvester Stallone ever did, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, got the worst reviews and the worst box office. He only did it because he heard that Arnold wanted to do it and thought it would be a big hit. Arnold put that rumor in the trades to get Sly, to trick Sly into doing a stinker of a movie, so that Arnold could do a movie that he knew Sylvester Stallone wanted to do.
Ridiculous. First of all, incredible chess moves by Arnold Schwarzenegger that, quite frankly, didn't think he was capable of or cared enough about.
He's a smart enough dude.
Number two, I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yep.
And number three, I actually thought this part was fun. Like, it was just fun to see Sylvester Stallone. I didn't realize all that backstory. That makes it even better. Mm-hmm. That was a fun way to offset what they were trying to set out to prove. It was pretty cute.
There's like, hey, this girl here. I'll tell you why there's no way that way we're definitely in a movie. That girl is way too attractive to be working in a video store, and it's Angie Everhart, the Playboy model. So yes, she is. But also, where are the unattractive women? Where are the normal, everyday, not model women? Which is true. Says, I know how I can prove it to you. I'll take you to where they beat up and tortured your cousin Frank, because I saw it in a movie. And they drive through Beverly Hills, which is nowhere near the ocean. And they say, well, he's got it. It's in there. That's got to be it. Says, and then he does this ridiculous monologue about how you've just revolutionized police training. All those years of going to all those classes in criminal justice school, when all I had to do was drive around the neighborhood, point to a house and say, the bad guys are in there. And sarcasm was never Arnie's strong suit. Let's be honest.
I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger walked so The Rock could run to millions and millions and millions of dollars. True. Like, Arnold had one lane. He did well when he stayed in it. Deviating from it, not the best move, and things like this. Yeah. But yeah.
This is both one of my favorite scenes and one of my least favorite scenes in the movie. Where they walk up to the door of this giant mansion, knock on the door, and this guy who looks like Odd Job from Goldfinger walks up, and he's like, "Hello," I'm like, "Hello, is the drug dealer of the house in?" What? We're driving around killing drug dealers. Are there any at home, please? And the guy smiles and closes the door, and then they stand there for a bit, and Arnie starts to walk away. And he turns around and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" "Don't worry, I'll be back." "You didn't know I was going to say that, did you?" He's like, "No, actually I did. You kind of work it into every movie. It's kind of your calling card." It's never explained to us where he was going, because he just stands there and for another 5 seconds and waits for the door to open again. Yeah. They shoehorned in a shoehorn of the line. But this is where it is Charles Dance, who plays Benedict, who is the best thing about this movie.
Yes. Because
here's the thing. I don't know what fucking movie the rest of them making. Charles Dance knew the assignment and played it perfectly. And honestly, he's the reason I will always watch parts of this movie with joy in my heart, watching Charles Dance. Also, the funny thing is, John McTiernan directed Die Hard. The studio wanted Alan Rickman, who was the villain in Die Hard, to play Benedict. And he was wary of being typecast as the bearded, well-spoken villain. So he said, he quoted a price they were not willing to match. If they had paid him the money, he would have done it. But he said, "No, I'm not going to do anything less than that," and they wouldn't do it. So they got Charles Dance. Charles Dance, who is cheeky enough to show up to the first day of filming wearing a cheaper than Alan Rickman t-shirt, because that's how great Charles Dance is. And that's so phenomenal. This is
he picked one of the scripts and stuck to it. God bless him. Yeah, he took a gamble and like, we'll see what gets made, but this is the script I'm going to do.
So So he says, he's standing there. It's like, hey, that's Benedict, the henchman with the glass eye I was telling you about. Like, excuse me, sir, are you a henchman? No, I only go as far as lackey. Any other questions? Is this such a great line?
It was precious.
Yeah. Take off your sunglasses, please. Who's asking? The Tin Man, and he shows the badge. Good line. Well, Tin Man, suppose you hit the bricks. Good line. Nah, they're the wrong color. Great line. Because obviously they got yellow, right? Here we go. Well, supposing we change them, would arterial red suit you? Snaps his fingers. There's 6 Rottweilers. You're reaching, okay? Oh, make no mistake, they are exceptionally well trained. Snaps his fingers again, and there's a dog pyramid, which again is another fucking joke from another movie entirely. Like, that ruins the whole tenor of this entirely really good scene from an action movie. Okay? And it says, now, if I snap my fingers again, sometime tomorrow, you will emerge. You and Toto will emerge from several canine recta. You're just saying way too much. Like, it's not his fault. He's a great actor. You've asked him to say way too much. Says, now, any questions? Yes, 2 of them, as he lights a cigar. 1, or you and Toto can go back to the land of Oz. I have 2 questions. Why am I bothering with you, with a dime store putz like you, when I could be doing something much more dangerous, like rearranging my sock drawers? And 2, how are you going to snap your fingers after I rip off both of your thumbs? Like, he asks you, take off your sunglasses. And there's literally a minute and a half of dialogue with 4 really good lines in it and a bunch of really weird things in it. And then eventually he does lower his sunglasses, and we see he's got a glass eye with a smiley face on it, and he says, "Have a nice day." And that's the end of the conversation somehow. So, like, are you a henchman? I only go so far as lackey. Take off your sunglasses. He eventually does and says, "Have a nice day." That's the end of the questioning session. Like, there was a good scene somewhere in here, but they've ruined it. Also, it's so funny that Arnold calls him a putz. And earlier in the thing, and Danny Madigan refers to it again here, he says, hey, no, he was wearing a different glass eye earlier. It was a bullseye one, and he hates his boss. He calls him a Sicilian schmuck. Putz and schmuck are 2 incredibly Yiddish words. Like, I know what they mean. I get the colloquialism of it, but they're not really used in a lot of conversation by people who aren't Jewish.
Correct.
William Goldman is incredibly Jewish, and he did a pass of the script. I'm willing to bet $1,000. He was the one who put them in here for 2 characters who are not remotely Jewish. I just said, here, it's fine. It's just, it's okay. My
big takeaway from this was, man, Arnold Schwarzenegger is just not a very good actor.
No, he's not. Anthony Quinn, Tony Vivaldi, is watching through the window as they leave. He says, "How did Slater find out? You tell me. How did he find out?" "You told his second cousin, and then left his beat-up second cousin at his second cousin's house with the intention of having his second cousin tell Jack Slater. That's how he found out. Yeah. That was one of your 7 plans. I'm sorry you can't keep track of all your plans."
This is classic Dutch Vanderloop. He's got a plan, Alex.
Then he says, "I want him to join me, but he doesn't like bad guys. Why am I a bad? You want him to join you." This is never mentioned again. You want him to join you? That's a different thing. You tried to have him killed several times earlier today. What is... Okay. Benedict, to his credit, doesn't care about any of this shit. He just wants to know why this kid knows so much about him. Then so that's what he's focused on. Right. So they pull up to a house in Laurel Canyon. It's like, this is my ex-wife's house. I just wanted to walk up to the door and make sure she's not here before I go in. Like, oh, don't worry, she's not here. Her name wasn't in the credits, which is a clever thing from, like, because when I'm watching a movie, especially if it's a sequel, I'll check ahead to make sure if somebody from the other movies is going to show up, because that's my brain. So the kid does it too. Okay, I can relate. Then he says, "Hey," he's like, "Hey kid, what is a doctor treat? Patience. The elbow on my jacket, what is it doing? Wearing thin? Bingo." And he walks away, and the kid goes, "Well, that was a stretch." Now that's what's called lampshading, where you have the character like say something we're thinking about a really bad moment in the thing. Like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any fucking sense. This is bad script writing 101. So this is where he knocks on the door, and Bridget Wilson shows up. But he whips the door, and the beautiful blonde woman kisses her. That's Bridget Wilson. Like, you're not skeezy, are you? And then here's where we read all the information. This is the daughter. Again, most of the scripts I could find online reference her as being 16. But she explains to her dad that this is a sorority prank where they send you a freshman and you have to kiss him when you open the door. So if you're 16, you're probably not in a sorority. And if you are in a sorority, are you under the impression that 16-year-olds are that freshmen in college are 12? This is another thing where the movies don't match up at all. So is it like, why do we have her kiss the kid? It's a sorority prank. Is it supposed to be 16? Listen, we'll fix it later. But they didn't have time to fix it later. So it's just this convenient plot device happening here. Was she's in the shower or whatever? Oh, this money I have sitting out on a desk in my old wife's house, in my ex-wife's house. It's money from an old counterfeit case. Turns funny colors when you burn it. I had to tell you this because this is a convenient plot device. He mentions that he tried paying his wife's alimony with counterfeit money from an old he seized evidence to pay his wife's alimony. So then, while putting it in a drawer, he sees a picture of the kid from the movie, within a movie we saw at the beginning. I should note, in the scene we saw at the beginning of the movie, the focus turned bad during the movie, and then when they fixed the focus, it was the credits. So, what we find out here is that in Jack Slater 3, the Ripper gets shot by Jack, and then he pulls the kid as he's falling off the roof with him. And the kid, who is like 8, falls to his death. And that's haunted Jack ever since, because, yeah, of course. But here's the thing. If we're seeing what happens in the movies, what actually happens. The last thing that happens in Jack Slater 3 is Jack shoots his mortal enemy in the chest, who then pulls with him off the roof Jack Slater's kid. Roll credits. Can you imagine sitting in the theater watching an action movie? And that's the last thing you see.
I mean, it's a cliffhanger. It's a sad
sure
one.
As fuck is.
But my God.
That is a downer of an ending. That is a downer of an ending. So he has all these flashbacks, and he has to go and buy a cigar because that's the only thing that calms him down or something. But he leaves. He says, "You got a cigar, kid?" "No, I don't have a cigar. I gotta go." "Don't." He's like, and he says, "I'll be back," and he leaves. And then the hot chick comes out of the shower and she says, "He would have been about your age." "I know. Ripper pulled him off the roof. It was 3 years ago." "How do you know so much?" Your dad's ends up on all the papers. I'm into crime stories." Knock at the door. Says, "That's probably Skeezy." "I'll get rid of him," says the man of the house, Danny Madigan. So he goes and opens the door. It's not Skeezy. It's Benedict with a bunch of henchmen. And they all come in and they spread it over the entire house. Lackeys. Thank you. Lackeys. Because if he's not a henchman, these guys definitely aren't henchmen.
Correct.
So anyway, they go and they take Will you go and teach her the value of silence? Because she's screaming all the time. So he takes her into her bedroom. So we'll see that in a second. Then he starts. Well, he wants to talk to Danny Madigan. Takes the wallet. He's looking through it. Says and I love Charles Dance. He says, I believe it was Sherlock Holmes who said that if you eliminate all impossible ideas, then the improbable, though improbable, must invariably be true. So I know your name from this ID I'm looking at. How do you know mine? Mugshots. So the kid's a really bad liar. Says after this whole little interrogation, which goes nowhere, the kid says, listen, leave me and the girl alone. There's some money in the drawer. Take it and just go. We'll tell Jack you stopped by. So the lackey opens the, hey, there gotta be at least $2,000 in here, boss. Like he starts taking it. It's like, wait a minute. These bills are marked, aren't they? You were trying to sucker me with marked bills. And says, burn it, he says to one of the lackeys. These bills are marked. Burn it. Like it that has to happen so the plot device happens, but there's no reason to do it. Also, to be honest, there's no reason for a roaring fire to be in the fireplace in Los Angeles. I don't know why that's there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But anyway, there is. And so Lackey throws the bills in there. As Jack Slater is pulling up, he sees the smoke coming out of the chimney, knows something must be up. So what does he do? He climbs on top of the roof. There's a knock at the door. They go over to see what it is. It's Skeezy, who's standing there with his eyes closed, puckering up, wait to be kissed. Like, hey, boss, who's this? And then jumps through the skylight is Arnold, who says, hi. And he takes the two guys' Uzis and shoots them at each other in the chest 100 times. Kills a lot of people in this scene. But
no blood,
I forgot. There's a really cool scene actually where the daughter has been trained by Jack in like hand-to-hand combat and everything. But I love that she continues screaming as though she's the one being hit while she hits and beats up the guy in the room to like suck everybody out there. I thought that was I've never
very
seen that
clever
in a movie before or since, and I thought that's really smart. Anyway, doesn't matter because he kills everybody except Benedict runs out, and they get in the car and drive away. And then he looks and sees she's got a black eye, and now he's really mad. So he goes to the door, to the sliding glass door, and the kid's, where are you going? He says, gotta catch the red eye. Now, Benedict was wearing a red glass eye in this scene, but Arnold didn't see it. So this line makes no sense. Gotta catch the red eye is a cute pun if you know he's wearing a red eye, but the only time you ever saw him, he was wearing a smiley face eye, which doesn't make any sense. So anyway, he does gymnastics off the down Laurel Canyon. He does gymnastics down all these roofs, and then he shoots at the car, and the car turns around, and the kid's like, I'm missing all the action. So he gets on a little girl's bicycle, and he's riding down the hill, and the little girl's bike, he says, oh, that'll be enough to play chicken with this car that's flying up that's driving up the canyon. And he goes, I'm a good guy. This has to work. I'm not gonna be killed. And then he goes, oh wait, I'm a comedy sidekick. Well, that's not going to work for me because I'm a comedy sidekick, so I have to crash. Ha, 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 ha.
Even the things that were like clever, I was just kind of out on because it was the rest of the movie. Because did we get the line too where he's like, you can't say that. This is a PG-13 movie and not a rated R one or whatever.
That's the next thing where he does say this, and he shows it to him. He wrote it on a notebook, and we don't see it, but it's obviously the word fuck. Because that's the word you can't say in PG-13 movies. Like, kid, I don't want to say it. There's also really cool ideas that belong in much better movies, where they're trying to find clues to the whole thing, and the kid comes up and says, hey, the guy with the missing eye, I got his license plate. You mean glass eye? No, when he was running toward the car, it was missing. And another cop finds the glass marble eye thing, and it's got writing on it. And he twists it so that the words match up, and it says, vengeance is mine. And the entire house explodes. which is a really cool, like, I left a bomb that I would make you read, and the thing you read made sense, and then it explodes. That's a cool idea for another movie, because the next scene is them like having ash all over them in the captain's office as he's yelling at them. Nobody can understand it, and there's literal steam rising out of his ears because it's another comedy scene. And this is where they fire Jack Slater because he got his wife's house blown up, or probably because all the other cops, maybe even Skeezy, were all horribly blown to bits in that explosion, but they're fine because they're main characters. This is where I believe he takes right. Oh, Practice tells us there's a funeral of Leo the Fart. Come work the funeral with me today, where Leo the Fart got killed and Torelli's sparing no expense. And it's a rooftop service in Long Beach. That's a detail that's going to come in crucially later. So then we see them. It's like, no, I can't. I just got fired. I want to go home. Well, if you change your mind, come meet me at the hotel. So he lives in the worst apartment complex in LA. There's no water in the pool. He opens the door, home sweet home. There's no furniture in the place except for a bed. He walks into the bedroom, immediately shoots through the glass closet door, and a guy falls out dressed as a ninja. And he says, "Oh my God, there was a guy in there." There's always a guy in there. Cost me a fortune in closet doors. And then he opens the closet, and it's full of the exact same gun, 12 of them, the exact same jacket, 4 of them, the exact same pair of jeans, the exact same pair of boots, the exact same t-shirt. Again, what movie is this from?
Yep.
Then he says, well, listen, we got to get out of here. You're going to be all mopey. Let's go to that funeral. Maybe we can find out something. Funeral? Then cut to them flying down the freeway, where he lays out the entire plot that somebody else had that he could not possibly know about, except for he heard the word funeral. And he lays out the whole thing about how they killed Leo the Fart, but who shot him? It must have been Benedict. Somebody said he took a shot at Torelli and missed and killed Fart by mistake. But Benedict doesn't miss, so he wanted to kill Torelli. He would have. He killed Fart. Why did he kill the Fart? Because the Fart's very fat. Why is he very fat? So they can sneak into the mortuary, slice him open like a turkey, and put dynamite in there and blow the whole thing sky high. And the kid said, "No, too many explosions." You're right. 2 nights ago, a military convoy was jumped and some nerve gas was stolen. That must be what they put. How do you know all this, Jack Slater? You're not a very smart cop. We've established that.
I'm just going to go back and clip that. So, because context still doesn't really make a lot of sense.
So Vivaldi is at the funeral trying to like fake a truce with Torelli. Benedict goes and pays respects to the corpse by pulling its finger. Get it? Huh? Leo the Fart, who's got gas inside him. And then they put a digital watch on the corpse so that the timer would count down, which I guess the timer is connected to the bomb inside his body. I don't know how it works. So they pull up to the Hyatt Regency in Long Beach. There's a huge rooftop gathering at this rooftop garden. And it says, "Stay in the car." But if I stay in the car, like I want to come with you. Listen, everybody says in the movie you stay in the car, but the guy doesn't stay in the car, and the guy winds up dead. Well, what happens if somebody comes find me in the car and kills me here? There's a glove in the glove compartment, and he opens up the glove compartment, and there's 15 guns in it. There's a gun in the glove compartment. It's really comedy. So he finds Practice. He tells Practice the thing. He says, they're going to blow up the thing. It's like, oh, that must be why somebody broke into the mortuary last night. Come on, we'll take the service elevator around back. And Slater follows Practice, and then they get around back, and he says, "What are you doing, John? You and I both know there's no service elevator at this hotel. So why did you follow him if you knew he was going to ambush you?" Because that's what he does. He ambushes him. And then the kid the kid walks up behind him and says, "How do you get to Carnegie Hall?" Because the kid's got a gun. And practice in a body bag if you don't drop your gun. And then like Practice walks over and calmly removes the gun from the kid's hand.
I kind of liked that line, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a good line. But this is the journey of Danny.
Yes.
He's got to kill somebody to become a man. If you were a man, you would have shot that man, but you didn't do it. So this is why so Practice is being paid by Vivaldi to look the other way about his drug dealing activities in Southern California. And the guy he's choosing to bribe to get that is a CIA guy who works in Washington, D.C. Feels like it'd be more like the DEA chief of Southern California.
Yeah, in Cali.
But the CIA guy from Washington seems like a wrong dude to bribe. Anyway, we'll let it slide because this is a terrible movie. So they're able to get away. Vivaldi is there. Vivaldi leaves. Vivaldi puts the gun to the kid, and they chain up the kid again with Slater this time. Vivaldi goes home to establish his alibi. Benedict sticks around to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. Practice is there, be like, last time I talked too much. This time I'm just going to shoot you. But there's two incredibly cartoony sounding gunshots from behind him. Turns out Whiskers the cat shot F. Murray Abraham in the back and saved the day because Whiskers the cat is here. You saved my fur plenty of times, says Whiskers the animated cat. I'm so disappointed in myself that I like this movie. So Jack is going to take the outside elevator all the way up the building, what he does in like 13 seconds. While Danny says, "You see that crane? I need it on the rooftop in 2 minutes." So Danny runs over there, flashing a gun. "Hey, you got to help me move the crane." Everybody from the construction site runs away because they see a kid holding a small gun. And then he's like, "Oh my God, I got to learn how to drive this. I don't even know how to drive a car." There's like 75 levers in there. He figures it out in 2 seconds.
Yep.
How to move the crane by himself. So, Jack somehow undercover because he put a hat on that has a badge on the front of it, walks through the entire LA mob to get to the corpse. And then makes believe that the corpse is talking to him. My God, this man's not dead. And he picks him up and he's running through the crowd. And then everyone realizes what he's doing. So everyone, including old grandmas and a nun, pull guns out of their purses and pockets to shoot at him. And then there's the cranes right there. So behind him. So he flings just like a fall away slam, a Samoan drop to Leo the Fart off of it, which lands on the crane. Then he jumps off the top of the building all the way down 20 stories to the top of a glass elevator. And he's hanging on for dear life, is able to like smash through and get into the elevator. Doors open. There's the whole mob is out there, but there's also a helicopter who's been circling the entire venue, who's a gunship. The helicopter opens fire, shoots through the elevator as Jack Slater drops down, shoots all the mob guys. And then Jack Slater turns around to shoot at the helicopter. Helicopter's rotor smashes hits the crane. And so the helicopter's all wobbly, so it can't shoot straight. So Jack Slater shoots down the helicopter and says, "This is a no-fly zone, pal." And then the entire elevator disintegrates from all the bullet holes. And this is actually kind of a cool shot as he's holding on for dear life by one piece of wood, and the wood breaks, and he starts falling.
This was very cool.
Looks at the wood, tosses the wood aside, and then gets caught by the corpse on the crane. And so the crane is moving the thing. There's 40 seconds left. So he's trying to get, "Hey, Danny, stop the crane right there." And where he wants to stop the crane, Kate, is directly over the La Brea tar pits. The La Brea tar pits because it's going to drop the corpse into the La Brea tar pits.
Yep.
They were on the roof of the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Long Beach. This is the La Brea tar pits. This is Long Beach. That's a big crane. That's a very long crane. The other thing is,
Alex, there's a very large body of water right at the other side.
Right. I suppose they could do that. But maybe the thing is, their idea of what to do about it. That's a 45-minute drive.
Yes.
From La Brea tar pits to the Hyatt Regency in Long Beach. I looked it up because I was curious. It was a big mistake. It was a big mistake. That's a 45-minute. Okay, so they drop it. They drop the corpse into the La Brea tar pits with Jack. Jack's able to get out just as the bomb goes off, but because the tar is so thick, there's a bubble of nerve gas that gets sucked right back down. So that's it. Because if it had been water, then the nerve gas would have exploded out and killed everybody. But because it's the tar pits, that's why. Also, because that's why they had to do the La Brea tar pits. Why they had to do the La Brea tar pits and couldn't do like the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, which is miles and miles closer than the Hyatt Regency in Long Beach, I have no idea. But
that's a very good question.
That's a question for the location scouts. Arnold immediately gets clean by wiping off all of the tar with a towel. But it doesn't matter because
how tar works.
Whitney shows up. Yeah, so tarring and feathering was obviously just done with soap and water and gets it right off. It's why they did that back in the day. The monster truck that Whitney drives off the freeway and up right by the tar pits. He says, "Hey, Dad, I heard you were here and thought you could use a change of clothes." And the kid's like, "No one finds this at all convenient." Hey, kid, you always said this is a movie, right? So again, lampshading, because this is very convenient. Oh, by the way, we never see Whitney again. We never see Bridget Wilson, nope. Meredith Caprice, or Whitney ever again after this scene. Now, Benedict shows up at the house. After he's already, by the way, he figured out how the magic ticket worked because he came home from the devastating loss of not being able to kill Jack Slater. And opens it looks the ticket glows. That's how the magic works. He puts his hand on the wall and starts to go through the wall. So he knows it works. He just doesn't know what the magic is. But he tests it again, realizes it works, and now is his best time to make his move. So he hates Tony Vivaldi. Tony Vivaldi always does the malapropisms. Literally says, "You always had Jack Slater in front of the 8-ball many times, but you always screwed it up. It's behind the 8-ball, you idiot." So this time, says, "Hey, how did it go?" "Oh, it went great. Women and children leaping to their doom to escape the pain of the nerve gas went off without a hitch." "Really?" "No, I'm lying. It was complete and utter balls up. I've had a terrible day, largely thanks to you." Pulls his gun on Vivaldi. Well, says, "Hey, Benedict, what are you doing? We used to be my friend. Now you've done a 360 on me." 180. What? 180. If you spaghetti slurping cretin, if I had done a 360, I would have wound up right back where I started. Then he shoots him. And then he delivers a monologue to the camera. The only time anybody breaks the fourth wall in the entire movie, Benedict does, and it's great. He says, "If Danny Madigan can jump through parallel worlds, then I can jump through parallel worlds. I can in and out, steal what I can, kill who I can, kill who I want, what I want, and no one's ever the wiser. If God were a villain, he'd be me." It's a great monologue. Completely it's an entirely different movie other than this one, but Charles Dance sells it because Charles Dance is the best thing in the movie by far. Then the monster truck bursts through the wall. And he says, "All right, Slater, I'll go quietly." "The hell you will." And he punches him. "That's for blowing up my cousin Frank's house." And that's and then he says, "Oh, and this is for blowing up my ex-wife's house." There's a little slap on the wrist because his ex-wife.
Get it?
But this is for my daughter's black eye. And he throws him He beels him across the entire room,
Keeps.
lands and hits Oddjob, and they both fly through the wall. It's like, usually when I do that, it leaves a hole. So Danny's like, no, this is the magic. Come on, we got to follow him. Like, well, how will I get back? And this is where Danny Madigan says something that really makes me angry, because it sounds like he was calling me out personally. He says, you can't go through life nitpicking every little thing. Like, the hell I can't. Watch me. Watch me, Danny Madigan.
An hour 45 into this 2:10 long movie.
I can't stop. So they go into the real world, which is full of like an entire. They go into the theater. They see Benedict and Oddjob running out. They chase after them, and they see them getting into a checker cab. So he punches he shoots the checker cab, but it doesn't explode because they don't explode in real life. So he punches the window of a car. And he goes, ow, that really hurt. You can't punch a car window and not have it hurt here. But they drive after him, and they wind up in an alley. They're going to play chicken. He says, get out of the car. You can't play chicken. You're going to die. Get out of the car, Daniel. So he gets in the car, and then he drives off at him, doesn't play chicken. And they crash. And there's a huge crash. And he runs after him, and he's like, ow, that really hurt. It's like, oh, my God, you're alive. But you could have died. Look. 1989 Mercury Sable, driver's side airbag standard, checker cab, no airbag. And yes, Oddjob has flown through the windshield. He's dead. So they go and they look for Benedict, who's not there, and like maybe he used the ticket, or I don't know, maybe he got out of the car before they went into the alleyway. You couldn't see the back seat of the car from where you were. Whatever. So he sees a billboard with Jack Slater on the billboard. And he's like, but it says Schwarzenegger. It's like, wait, where am I? Who am I? I don't know who I am. You got a place I can sit down? And so they go to the theater where he meets Nick. Where the kid says to Nick, without seeing Schwarzenegger there, Nick is like, oh, I believe your story about everything happening. Because why would you make up stories? You're only 9.
Yeah.
So the ticket worked. Oh my God. I could have met Jean Harlow. I had such a crush on her. Or I could have gone and met Marilyn Monroe. Give me the ticket back so I can use it. And so there's Schwarzenegger there, and he's like, "Oh, Mike, I'm a great fan of your work too, sir." And it's Slater, so the Slater is like, "Nah, it's not me. I'm Jack Slater. I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm fiction. I don't fake. I don't exist." Yeah, sure. Let's throw his kid off a building, give him nightmares for the rest of your life. But you're fiction, so who cares? Season of an existential crisis, and the existential crisis leads to him. Like they wind up. He talks about they do a lot of like politician bashing, which is good actually. But Arnold becomes a politician not long after this, so that the irony. So they go back to Danny's apartment, where the mom is justifiably livid because she knew he was mugged, went to the police station, and he told him to come right back here. She got off her shift. She came home. He's not here. Who knows what happened to him? Hello. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Madigan. I'm Arnold Braunschweiger, because he never understands what his name is. Anyway, the kid ends up waking up and he goes in the kitchen, and his mom and Arnold Schwarzenegger are best friends. But Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger yet. He's just still Jack Slater, and his mom is stupid and believes that this guy who looks exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger is an LA cop who was just having him check out mugshots all night in the station because his mom is dumb. But this is where she's convinced Jack that Danny doesn't should do better with his studies and everything. Mom, you turned him into a wimp. But then they're listening to Mozart, and like, what is this? It's Mozart, the guy John Practice killed. Yeah, Jack, the guy John Practice killed. Well, that's terrible. This is the wonderful musician, or whatever he says. They convince him to let him go, and they go up to the top of the Empire State Building because Jack's like, this is the first place I've been anywhere, anything real. So but maybe he used the ticket again to go into another movie. Why would he do that? I don't know, but it's interesting, right? This is where we get Benedict in a diner, like having doodled on some like movie times and stuff in a newspaper, explaining to somebody about how this whole thing works. I understand this must be very new and new and scary for you, but Jack Slater will always thwart our plans unless we get rid of him at the source. So I know you have no idea who this is, but his name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I love that Charles Dance as Benedict is the only guy who's ever actually pronounced Arnold Schwarzenegger the correct way, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's the Ripper. He brought the Ripper back from 3. Honestly, like Benedict and the Ripper deserve their own villain spin-off together. Yeah. Like they're both really interesting characters with a cool backstory, and them together, that's just heaven. So they're going to assassinate Arnold Schwarzenegger at the premiere. Now, Arnold and Danny don't figure this out until later when Arnold does some pablum about this world doesn't suck, Danny. The world is what you make of it. I don't care that your dad died a few years ago and you're obviously still working through that because, again, you're only 9 years old. But come on, Danny. Stop saying bad things about the world you live in. And so they see Benedict get into a cab. Arnold runs after it, rips the door off the hinges, threatens to murder the cabbie until he tells him where he went. I don't know. He was just in the back with a newspaper. They find the newspaper, and it's just Arnold Schwarzenegger, big like premiere tonight, and then they cross out Arnold Schwarzenegger. So they go to the premiere. This is another one of those weird inside joke things where we see all of these real stars playing themselves, including Schwarzenegger and his wife Maria Shriver, at the premiere. And they're trying to find out how they're going to kill him. So then we see the Ripper, who's just walking through the line of people being interviewed, and they think it's Tom Noonan, the actor who plays the Ripper, but in costume. And like, hey, what are you doing here? I thought I'd kill somebody, and he leaves. And then they see Tom Noonan, who's like right next to him, and they go, wait, how's that even? And then Rick Duckerman from The Burbs plays Tom Noonan's agent and sees the Ripper and says, what are you doing here in costume? You want to play axe murders the rest of your life? You're lucky I know a guy who owns tuxedos. He takes him up to the manager's office to like call the thing, and that's where he assembles the whole axe thing. Did Jack Nicholson show up to the premiere of Batman Returns dressed as the Joker? Come on, man, think about it. And then the Ripper murders Tom Noonan's agent. It's really sad. Poor Rick Duckerman. But he goes to the top balcony to assassinate Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jack is on the lower balcony. And then Danny points out the Ripper, who's up there going to throw his axe down and kill Arnold. So this is where we get Arnold going, Jack Slater going, everybody down, which is a thing that everybody uses in all the Arnold impressions. Yeah. Came from this particular scene, and then Arnold takes down Jack Slater, and they have a little scene where like, you're the best a celebrity lookalike I've ever seen. You know, if you ever get to LA, call my people. We can get you shopping center openings. And then this is such a great little thing. It's like, I don't like you. You've brought me nothing but pain, which is a weird thing to have Arnold Schwarzenegger say to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, it's kind of true in a metaphysical way.
Sure.
So then the Ripper kidnaps Danny Madigan out of an incredibly packed lobby at the most fancy hotel in New York. Just plucks him out of there. Nobody stops it. Nobody cares. Chevy Chase is there. Jean-Claude Van Damme is there. Do a spin kick. Jean-Claude, come on. Do something. But no.
No awareness.
So then Jack realizes where he must have taken him. So he goes up to the roof so they can play out the exact same scene. And I love the Rippers there. It's like, listen, we've done all this before. You throw away the gun and we talk a little bit and you shoot me. I pull the kid off the roof. You know what? Let's skip to the end. Picks up Danny and throws him off the roof. And then he throws the axe at Jack, misses. Jack pulls it out of the wall. It's like, come on, Jack, let's go. Come on, because he's a psychopath. And Jack, instead of attacking him with the axe, like smashes like a high voltage box, and then picks his feet up off the wet roof, and the electrocution only gets the Ripper. And as he's dying, he goes, "I'll be back." And Jack goes, "The hell you will." And then he's able to save Danny, who is hanging from a gargoyle. He's able to pull him up and save him from certain death. And they get up there. It's like, but throwing him up onto the roof is like, I think my shoulder is out of the socket from throwing a 9-year-old boy 15 feet up in the air.
Sure.
It would be. But I mean, I'm glad that they actually had him do something. But then it's like, I got to get to a hospital. Will the morgue suffice? And there's Benedict, because he's on the roof too. He's got his giant gun and an umbrella. And he says he does this amazing monologue. Oh, I forgot entirely about the best scene of the whole movie. It's one of the best scenes in all of cinema, where Benedict is walking around and realizing that the rules don't apply the same way.
Yeah.
It's one of the so fucking inspired. He's walking around and there's this girl. She's a teenager. She's all cracked out. And she approached, like, "You want to have some fun, baby?" Like, "How old are you?" Like, "Never mind." And she walks away. And then he like sees like these kids shoot another kid and run away. Like, "No, go back. Take his shoes. Take his shoes." And he runs over and he sees the kids run away, looks down. There's a kid with socks. He's like, "Take his shoes." And then he's just waiting. No sirens, no screams. What's going on? And then he's down some side street, sees a guy in a mechanic shop working on a car. He says, "Excuse me." "Yeah, what you need, buddy?" "Well, I'm wondering if you could help me test a theory." "Sure, what do you need?" Shoots him dead. Looks at his watch. Listens. Walks out into the middle of the street. Shoots 2 more times into the ground. "I have just shot somebody, and I did it on purpose. I said I have murdered a man, and I want to confess." And then you hear somebody way up in the top go, "Shut up, people are trying to sleep."
So perfect. Yep.
Oh my God. It's so great because you see the look on his face of, oh, this is going to be good. Like he just he totally figures it out.
The realization, yeah.
The rules don't apply in the same way. It's really cool. It's one of the most inspired scenes of the 1990s. And I wish the whole movie was like this. Like this movie, like the idea of the beginning, somehow the villain crosses over into the real world and realizes that nothing works the same way here.
Thought this would have been so cool if this was 20 minutes in, and then the rest of the movie was the exploration of that piece of it. Yep.
This one, the tiny part of this movie that is brilliant should have been the whole movie. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, now
we're on the rooftop.
On the roof, he says, "I'm gonna go." If the cops find me, then I'll have another explosive surprise for them. There's got another explosive glass eye, and that's very important for later. There's, "Ha, Dracula! I can get King Kong." It's probably hard to get King Kong. I'm just gonna say hard to find. It's gonna be difficult. We could have a nightmare with Freddy Krueger, or throw a surprise party for Adolf Hitler. I feel like just like invoking the actual person as opposed to here is cheating.
Yeah.
Also, Adolf probably doesn't like playing second fiddle. So if you're going to bring him
just seem that way
over here, you probably have to like be his lackey. I don't feel like that's what you want to do. Then he says, "We do a party for Adolf Hitler. Hannibal Lecter can do the catering. And then we'll all have a christening for Rosemary's Baby." Just the way he says it's so great. Charles Dance is the king. But he's like,
I kept
the
thinking
last
of
thing is
the South Park Super Best Friends. The way like he was railing everybody up. And see, man.
It says, because here in this world, the bad guys can win. It is a wonderful concept for an entirely different movie
100%.
that should have been made instead of this one.
Correct.
That is what I keep going back to. But anyway, he's been shooting at them a bunch of times during this whole time, and then finally the gun clicks. And then Arnold says, "You pulled the movie bad guy big mistake. You forgot to reload the damn gun." No, Jack. I just left one chamber empty. And shoots him in the chest. And then he smashes Danny in the head or in the arm with it. And Danny's just playing possum, though. So as he's putting more bullets in the gun, he says, "You hear, see, Jack? Here the bad guys can win." But then Danny does a flying drop kick or something, and somehow Arnold gets a hold of the gun and points he tries to activate the ticket to leave, but it doesn't work. Benedict does. So Arnold shoots him in the explosive glass eye, which blows up. But again, this is the real world where things are supposed to have consequences, and it doesn't actually affect them at all, even though there's a giant explosion right next to them.
And the magic ticket just kind of like...
It chose its own rules. It does.
Yeah, which is frustrating, because a ticket is also... Even the fact that you can use it to get to other movies, that was like... Ticket is something that, like, notably you can only use once. Like, that really frustrated me.
Yeah. So the ticket flutters down after the explosion, down to the ground, and lands outside another theater playing Ingmar Bergman's old The Seventh Seal, which features Death. So it activates, and then Death walks out of the screen. Death is played in a wonderful little cameo by Ian McKellen.
Yes.
So Gandalf is Death. But they're able to. He gets shot in the chest. So he's in the ambulance. Paramedics are looking at her like, nah, he's gone. Take him back to the movies, back to where this is just a flesh wound. And they look at Danny like, you're. And then he pulls out a gun, and he's like, they all leave. Well, yeah, they left. You pulled out a gun. So then he drives the ambulance into the theater, old theater, Nick's theater. And Nick comes down the stairs, says, "Pleasure playing the movie. We got to get him back into his world. He's been shot." And he's like, "Do you have the ticket with you?" "No, but it's got to work anyway." But you can't, kids. Like, I don't understand how that works. Anyway, so he drags Arnold, this 9-year-old kid, drags Arnold into the theater. They're playing the movie. It's got to work. It's got to work. And then Death been following that ambulance a couple of blocks, and he walks down the aisle. It's like, "No, you can't have him. I'm tired of you making the rules. Who stays and who goes? I'm telling you, this one stays," which I've always hated, but then I realized this is what Danny wishes he could have said to the Grim Reaper when the Grim Reaper took his father.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
But the movie should spell that out.
Yeah.
Like they only briefly, for 1 second, mention his dad's dead. They don't give you the circumstances or anything. But I think that's like the main reason why he's so attached to Slater. It's a father figure that he can worship, But they don't really do anything. Anyway, so it says, "I was just curious. He's not on any of my lists, but you are, Daniel. You die a grandfather." So he's like, "Hey, you got to help him. Come on." "I don't do fiction. It's not my scene. You're a very brave boy, but I must say you're not very bright." So Death calls Danny dumb, which is very funny. "If I were you, I might be looking for the other half of that ticket." So because he knows Death knows there's a ticket, knows he doesn't have it, knows there's another half. I don't know where was Death watching the movie too. I'm not sure. So
he says fiction's not his scene. That he's
so weird.
Knows how the ticket works.
Danny drop kicks the little box that collects the tickets, and they explodes. And he looks for the tickets, but all the tickets are all gold, like the magic ticket. They're all gold. Does this movie house never check the receipts at the end of the night? Like, how many tickets have we sold? How many tickets are in the box? Because they've established nobody comes to see anything here. So there's enough ticket stubs in there for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever. So he finds the other half of the magic ticket. It starts glowing. They get him into the other movie. Whiskers sees that Jack has been shot and is down the hallway. Come on, Doc, you gotta come. I need. I want to stay here with you. Like, I need you out there. I need you out there to believe in me. It's like, but I feel like I'm never gonna see you again. If anybody thought that, they would be making a big mistake. Because you know who's making the big mistake? The people who obviously set this up to be a sequel. In that Danny was going to jump back into Jack Slater 5, and then they would just do this over and over again for, I don't know, 5-6 movies. But no, the people did not know. No, not going to work. Jack Slater is fine. He's okay. The doctor says, I wouldn't even call this a flesh wound. And then he yells at his own captain about all the tropes. You're the comic relief, the captain who yells at everybody. But I'm the hero, so you have to shut up and listen to me. Then Danny's like, you can have the ticket. And Robert Prosky, Nick is like, nah, it's yours now. I think Houdini wanted it that way, or something dumb. And the last scene of the movie is Jack driving off into the sunset. Yay. Oh no, Brent. In October 2019, Schwarzenegger revealed he was willing to star in True Lies 2 and Last Action 2, possible legacy sequels to the willing to star in? Or like, hey, if somebody wants to pay a bunch of money to do this crap. By the way, I believe his new Netflix series, Fubar, is basically a sequel to True Lies. Because that's basically the same character he's playing.
Do people say like, hey, look at that historic box office flop and let's try and do a sequel 20 years
Again,
later?
this is a cult classic, Kate. People who are dumb like me used to, like I used to, think this movie is great. But it's not. Brent saying, I saw this in theaters. I cannot recall a single moment, so this recap is fun. Well, I'm glad
the recap is fun. It was not fun to watch. I hated it.
No, I know.
It had fun moments, but like this was 2 hours 10 minutes long. It was so it still didn't know what it was doing for all of that time. Like it no. I felt like Threat Level Midnight was a better action parody in 30 minutes, and 20 of it was the movie or whatever, than this was in 210. This was exhaustive. And it was basically 6,000. Same thing. We were like, know what it wanted to be, and that's what it's like. None of those things are happening. Woof.
That's great because all we got was robot Jewish, and then you saying woof at the end. So I'm going to assume that you said get the flick out of here. I'm going to keep the flick in. Only for old time's sake and Charles Dance's performance. It is a fantastic example of everything that can possibly go wrong when a studio decides, oh no, we're releasing the movie on this date we picked, and you're not going to have any time to like make the movie right. It is a movie for posterity of how the action movie thing finally fell apart and died. There were not that many big budget action movies after this because the world was changing. Actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger blames how badly this movie did on the fact that there was a Democrat in the White House now. That Bill Clinton became president, so the movie started to suck. That's what he says.
Story tracks, because they were classics before that, let me tell you.
Yeah. All right. Listen, this is as close as I've ever been when keeping the flick in to getting it out. Like it's 51-49. Like that's what it is to me. But the 1% that tips it over is entirely Charles Dance. I love that performance unabashedly. And I will always defend it. Also, this movie has to exist so that somebody can watch it and then make the movie about the bad guy coming from the movies into the real world and realizing that he can get away with murder here.
If we get
that movie,
I will retract mine if we get that movie. But his performance probably would have saved this for me if they cut out 45 other minutes of this movie.
I know.
Like part of what killed this was the runtime for me. Like 210 for this nonsense was way too long.
It is really too long. The director agrees with you. The director thinks there should have been at least a half hour trimmed out of it, but they wasn't allowed to. So
it is, like you said, though, it goes to show you could have like solid enough cast, huge budget, good, like cinematically good, clever writers, script treatments. Like you can have all these things in place and you can still make a really bad movie.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there'll be a really good movie next week, but I make no promises. I'll have a great track record.
You're getting into Kate territory with your picks.
No, listen. I have other options. Better than this one, I promise. It has to be. Can't be much worse. We'll see you all next week when we decide whether we're going to get the flick out of here.